Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Mkango Corporate Update for September 2024. Today, we're going to have a corporate presentation, and then there'll be an opportunity for questions and answers, some which have already been submitted. Without any further ado, I'll hand you over to Will and Alex.
Thanks, Simon, and thanks everyone for joining. Look forward to going through the opportunity that's Mkango. I'm going to just put that into full screen. So we thought it was very timely for a Q&A, and obviously we've had we've had some questions come through already, so we'll come on to those later. But obviously we've had a bit of news recently, starting with the mine development agreement, which has been signed. Fantastic milestone for the company. We just closed a financing this morning, so that's 1.25 million. That was following up from the previous announcement. Also, we have funding from EIT Raw Materials, and that's really to kick off the optimization process for Songwe. So again, very timely in combination with the mine development agreement. Then we announced the green project participation by Hypermag GmbH, Hypermag Germany, in the green project. That's a very interesting project looking at grain boundary engineering for magnet production, and also incorporating a technology that's been developed by Hypermag GmbH called NeoLeach. And then finally, we also announced the agreement with Envipro, which is a very exciting technology, real game changer in the recycling business, unlocking new scrap supplies and really enabling us to leverage that competitive advantage. So I'm going to move on to the actual presentation. It's not a very long presentation, but as I say, we've got a lot of questions, so we'll come on to those. So really, what I wanted to do is just give an overview of the company and the suite of assets that Alex and myself have really developed over the last 10 years. And as everyone knows, we started out really as an exploration company. We've taken a project from an exploration stage. I'm talking about the Songwe Hill Rare Earths project, from an exploration stage all the way through drilling, piloting. Huge amount of work has gone into this project, and some major milestones culminating in the feasibility study, definitive feasibility study that we announced in July 2022. And then we received the approval for the environmental social health impact assessment. That's the IFC performance standards in January 2023. And then the mine development agreement that was signed in July 2024. So we've taken that project all the way through from feasibility to mine development agreement. And that's really, we see a lot of opportunities to reduce operating costs. So one of the things we have been looking at is areas within that processing flow sheet where we can reduce costs, and the EIT Raw Materials funding will enable us to sort of kick off that process. At the same time, we identified an opportunity to move downstream into rare earth separation. So that is a very interesting development option. And that would process the product from Malawi. Now, the product from Malawi would be a high-grade, purified mixed rare earth carbonate with elevated proportion of neodymium, over 30% neodymium praseodymium. So that carbonate would go to Poland. We selected the site that gave us the lowest possible operating costs, and the site in Poland ticked all the boxes. Operating costs are less than $3 a kilogram, and that would convert the mixed rare earth carbonate into separated NdPr oxides. So that's a sort of value-added step. And then we would also produce a heavy rare earth carbonate, and we have a potential solution for that in the EU as well. So that project is at the feasibility stage. As we announced sort of previously, those two projects are subject to an ongoing strategic review. And really what we're looking to do is see how we can create most value for shareholders. We don't think there's very little value for these assets reflected in the share price. So we're looking how we can sort of unlock that value. for shareholders and for all stakeholders, including the government of Malawi and our local communities, etc. So that's the upstream part of the business. Malawi and Poland, rare earth mine development and separation. Then on the recycling part of the business, and it's actually not just recycling, it's also recycling and magnet manufacturing. So it's an integrated process. So the IP and the know-how sits really with at the front end with the recycling, but the product that comes out of the recycling and the liberation of the recycled material goes into magnet manufacturing. And we're very fortunate to be working with Hypermag University of Birmingham, which has a huge amount of expertise in magnet manufacturing as well. So we have that part of the supply chain, which I'll come on to. So we are rapidly looking to roll out this technology. The technology is a hydrogen-based technology to liberate rare earth magnets from end-of-life assemblies. That is the key, a key aspect that is a key challenge for rare earth magnet recycling is how do you liberate a magnet that's embedded in an assembly, whether it's a hard disk drive or electric motor or any kind of assembly that contains a magnet. So HyProMag has the solution via its patented hydrogen process of magnet scrap technology. So that technology can liberate that magnet from the assembly in a cost-effective and, importantly, an energy-efficient way, and is underpinned by 100 million of R&D expenditure with the University of Birmingham and project partners. So there's a huge amount of work that's got into it. But really, we see this technology is having the ability to unlock the supply chain for rare earth magnet recycling. Less than 5% of rare earth magnets are currently recycled. So HyProMag has the technology to unlock that sort of supply chain. So what we're looking to do is roll out that technology as rapidly as possible. So we're focused on Europe, North America, and recently sort of Asia. We're also looking at a range of complementary technologies, which will enable us to maximize the variety of scrap that we can process. So the UK, the focus is on short loop magnet recycling through Hypermag Limited, and we're targeting first commercial sort of production in Q1 next year. And that's underpinned by a lot of piloting at the University of Birmingham, produced over 3,000 finished magnets so far. They're targeting 10,000 finished magnets by the end of the year. Initial production will be fairly sort of modest scale, but we're looking to sort of ramp that up over the course of next year. So secondly, Envipro, we recently entered into a collaboration with Envipro, and that's really focused on Japan, but also looking at synergies with the UK as well. So Alex and myself, we've been in Japan recently, and very pleased to be working with Envipro and looking at Japan as really sort of one of the focuses in Asia for the rollout. So we really want to develop a business there and leverage off the great work that's been done in the UK and elsewhere to develop this technology. Then Hypermag Germany is a similar sort of development to what's happening in the UK. We are looking to scale this up, get this developed ASAP, and targeting first production in 2025. And benefiting from very attractive sort of grant funding, very strong interest, and equally for the UK as well in potential customers. There's very strong customer interest in a recycled product with a low carbon footprint. So Hypermag Germany, Hypermag USA, we're working in JV with CoTec, and a full feasibility study has been completed by US engineers. So we have BBA and Pegasus working on that at the moment, and that'll be completed by the end of the year. Great team at CoTec, great engineering team, really sort of pushing that development forward. Very exciting. We spent a lot of work in the US, short list of sites in Texas, and we're moving rapidly forward with that. And initially, we're looking at a larger scale production, And really, that's building off what's been done in the UK and Germany, which have equal opportunities to scale up. In addition to that, we have developed a pilot plant for long loop magnet recycling. So HyperMag is focused on short loop recycling, and then Mkango Rare Earths UK is focused on the long loop processing. And really, what that means is it broadens the variety of scrap that we can process. We wanted to develop that capability initially, really just to understand the cost structure, and we're completing scoping studies for that as well. We commissioned a pilot plant. It's complementary to what we're doing with HyperMag, and that'll also be located at Tyseley. So really, we have near-term production from the rare earth magnet recycling and manufacturing, and then we also have these very attractive upstream development options, which we're, as I mentioned earlier, we're looking at completing a strategic review on to see how we can unlock value from those assets. So just moving on to the next slide. I'm not sure if you can see all of that slide, but effectively this is the rare earth supply chain. And this really just to give a snapshot of where we sit in the supply chain. So the rare earths supply chain, there's a number of steps in it. And our strategy has really been to position ourselves where we can add most value. So in the early stages, you have mining, beneficiation, and hydrometallurgy. Then you have the separation, and really that's what we're doing in Malawi and Poland. So we have that front end of the supply chain, and then at the other end of the supply chain, we're developing that capability in magnet manufacturing, and we can basically feed that recycled material either back into remanufacturing a magnet, which is what we're doing with HyperMag, or if there's impurities or it makes more sense to unlock additional value, we'll send it back to production of sort of rare earth carbonates via a long loop process, which is the process we also piloted at University of Birmingham. So we're positioned across the supply chain. I think we've got a very unique position in the rare earth sector, in that there are very, very few advanced stage rare earth projects that have a definitive feasibility study, environmental approval, mine development agreement, and have gone through that whole stage from exploration all the way through to feasibility study. So there's literally a handful of projects. We're an independent project. We have, and that broadens the scope of our development options. And similarly for the recycling, we have a business that we believe is very robust at current prices, near-term production, and it's not very capital intensive. So this enables us really to engage with those downstream customers and buyers of magnets. And in the future, there's potential synergies. For example, the Critical Raw Materials Act, targeting a minimum of 25% recycled. You could have a situation where a portion of the product is primary and a portion is secondary sort of recycled product. So these are all sort of future options that we're looking at. So just a little bit about recycling. So I mentioned the challenges earlier. If you have a small magnet embedded in an assembly, whether it's a hard disk drive, so in the corner of that hard disk drive, you can see the voice coil assembly, voice coil motor, and there's magnets attached to that. If you shred that, you can see at the bottom what happens. The magnet just breaks apart, it sticks to anything. That increases maintenance costs downstream. Similarly for the spindle, similar situation. So shredding's not a good solution to unlock value, and also to really sort of reduce that carbon footprint, and you don't recover the magnet. Similarly, if, taking a rotor from an electric vehicle, you can see those magnets embedded around the edge of the rotor. Very difficult to liberate. If you shred it, you'll lose the magnets, they'll oxidize, creates issues. So HyperMag has the solution. So we can liberate those magnets and then feed them back into the supply chain. We don't need to dismantle. We don't need the heat treatment. So this is a very, very attractive process. So what I'm going to do is just illustrate a couple of the processes that we are working on. So firstly, taking a hard disk drive, and this relates to the agreement with Inserma that we announced earlier in the week. So if you take a hard disk drive, you can see that voice coil assembly in the corner. What we don't want to do is put that whole hard disk drive into the hydrogen process. So what we would do is we want to separate that voice coil assembly, then put it into the hydrogen process. And this is what the Inserma unit, pre-processing unit does. And this is key because it creates a number of benefits. If you remove that voice coil assembly, you remove the center spindle, that makes that downstream shredding process and data destruction process cheaper, easier, more straightforward, less maintenance. So is a benefit for the company that's doing the shredding. Also, we can go to a data center, for example, and provide a full circular solution. You know, we can recycle those magnets which would otherwise be lost, and we can then remanufacture those magnets back into another magnet. So that results in a very low carbon footprint product. So this is what the Inserma unit looks like. It is the sort of first prototype. Ultimately, there'll be an automated feed and various other improvements as we progress this sort of technology. But even at this stage, it's very rapid. It is, again, coupled with HPMS, you know, it'll be transformational for recycling of hard disk drives. So I'm just going to play this video now. You can see the hard disk drives being fed in, and effectively the rate at which they're going in is the approximate rate you'd be shredding, feeding a shredder. So it's quick. We can get it done quickly. You don't have to spend time dismantling that hard disk drive to try and take out that magnet. And it's small. You can see it's a small unit. So it's mobile, which we can locate it at source. And the product, what it does, it creates effectively a high, it's like a sort of concentrate to feed into the HPMS process. So that is the Inserma unit. We're looking to roll that out into all jurisdictions we're working in. The next stage in the process, I'm just going to maximize my screen again. So basically, this is actually a separated voice coil sort of assembly with the magnets with the sort of backing plates. So what would happen if you put that into a hydrogen into our process, the HPMS process? So the HPMS vessel is filled with hydrogen. These scrap feed is put into the hydrogen vessel, and it reacts. The magnet attached to the assembly reacts with the hydrogen. It forms a powder, and importantly, it demagnetizes as well. So it means you can separate that magnet. Effectively, it's the raw material for making another magnet. You can separate that magnet and feed it back into the supply chain. The shortest loop route, the lowest energy and the lowest cost sort of output is to remake that powder into another magnet. And that has a very low carbon footprint. Lowest cost, low carbon footprint. If there's certain impurities in it, if it's oxidized or there's impurities, we also have the option to send it back for remelting or to make a neodymium oxide via a chemical process, which we've piloted as well. So we have maximum flexibility, and we can produce a sort of range of product streams. I'm just going to show you the video of this HPMS process, just to show what happens when you have a separated voice coil, what happens to a voice coil magnet when you put it through the HPMS HPMS process. Okay, so hopefully you can see that on the screen. This is the hydrogen reacting with that magnet. You can see it decrepitates, it forms a powder, and it demagnetizes. So effectively what you can do then, you can separate the nickel coating, you can see there the sort of shiny bits, to form a raw material that you can just feed back into remake a magnet. So as you can imagine, that has sort of major benefits downstream in terms of the type of product you can produce, and which I'll just come on to now. The biggest benefit is the sort of reduction in carbon footprint, and this just gives an illustration of what we can achieve. So these are just drawn to some from public available sort of papers of carbon footprint of mining in red here. So this is mine to magnet, and you can see that the sort of range of carbon footprints here. Then if you look at chemical processing of magnet waste, then you have these sort of level of carbon footprints. If you go down to if you use the Hypermag process, a magnet to magnet short loop process, you can see you have an extremely reduced carbon footprint for producing a magnet. And as you can imagine, for OEMs trying to reduce their carbon footprint, this is a fantastic opportunity to do that. And we believe it'll be a very competitive process, and it'll be a highly competitive process, and we are seeing very strong interest in this sort of product suite that we're able to produce. We're able to produce a whole range of grades of magnets, and we can also blend in primary material as well, or long loop source material if we want to increase the range and grade of magnets that we produce. So development timeline and really the sort of milestones for the recycling, completion of the feasibility study in the US by the end of this year. So that is the sort of near-term milestone, and then initial commercial production early next year for HyProMag in the UK, initial production in 2025 for Germany as well, and then we're looking at scale-up options beyond that. USA 2026 commercial production, and then we're also working with Envipro in Japan and looking at other options as well, for example Canada. So just moving on to the next slide, just on Songwei, obviously we recently announced the EIT raw materials funding, and really that is to kick off the optimization process. So we developed a processing flow sheet for Songwei. We completed a significant amount of piloting, but during that process, and actually as a result of sort of subsequent work, we've identified a number of areas where we can reduce costs within this processing flow sheet. So we're very aware of the cost driver. I mean, for example, a lot of the cost drivers for the Songwei project are in the reagents for these steps of processing. And we announced that feasibility study when reagent costs were high. So clearly, reagent costs have come down, and as well as rare earth prices. So there is an inbuilt hedge to a certain extent. But in addition to that, we're looking at reducing reagent consumption. So for example, we have bleed streams within the processing flow sheet that we're looking at options to recover value back from those bleed streams and waste streams. So that's a big focus of the EIT raw materials funding and going forward. So really that sort of comes to the end of the presentation, and I think what we're going to do now is move into the questions. We've received a lot of questions, so we very much appreciate that. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to read through them and answer those starting now. So first of all, in the Q2 results, we listed some near-term catalysts which all relate to recycling. Can you discuss perhaps one catalyst for each of the following: Songwei, Envipro, CoTec, and Malawi? No time frame required, just what as a business we're hoping for and expecting next. So just taking that on the recycling, as I mentioned earlier, We are very much looking forward to the US feasibility study coming out. There's a huge amount of work that has got into that and spent a lot of time in the US. So that's a major milestone coming out. And I think this will be the first time we'll be putting out into the public market more on the economics. So that is a near-term milestone. Songway, obviously subject to financing, next steps, completion of the optimization work. We can kick off that process with the EIT raw materials funding. And then following that is the front-end engineering and design. So Envipro, clearly the end game here is to roll out the technology into Japan. So we're just navigating our way through that, and we are very excited to be working with Envipro and looking at all the different options to do that. Palave, a big focus for Palave in the context of the Critical Raw Materials Act is really looking at where and how we can access, additional grant funding to sort of leverage development of that project. So that is a big focus for Palave. So next question, do you anticipate another recycling plant location for the year end or in the near term? Canada was mentioned recently. I think Canada would certainly be, of interest. It's a sort of natural extension, in North America. We'll also be looking at Mexico. But I think, we'd be targeting to do something there in 2025. Okay, the next, when we go into recycling production, what percentage of the profits revenue will we keep? As I suspect there'll be lots of profits involved. I think in terms of the structure, we've obviously consolidated the recycling assets, under Magneto, the sort of private subsidiary, and we want to maintain our stake in Magneto and those subsidiaries. But clearly, we wouldn't roll out, a different sort of structure and restructuring. But really, we've got to look at what value we can create from that. We think there's a huge amount of value to unlock from the recycling businesses. We're on the cusp of production in a number of jurisdictions, so we want to, I think, see that through. But clearly, we've got to keep an open mind and see where we can see where the potential is for that sort of value uplift. So next question, China set to announce rare earth regulations, new rare earth regulations, October the 1st, traceability system, crackdown on illegal mining. Do you think this is a disguise to trace and perhaps restrict exports to the West, and therefore we'll see pricing increase? We've already seen a 20% increase. I think with rare earth prices, I think we've seen the bottom of this cycle, and I think the outlook's looking very positive. I think what's been happening in China, certainly in Chinese economy, is that has been impacting the rare earth prices as well as other commodities. But as the question says, the pricing is starting to come back, which is really it's very positive in terms of the outlook, and I think we're seeing we're very optimistic about it. I think as Mkango, with the suite of assets that we've built up, I think we're very well positioned. Clearly, given that positive outlook for pricing, but also we're seeing very strong interest in developing domestic supply chains and also independent sources of rare earths. So we're very much aligned with that, but also strong interest in a recycled, low carbon footprint product. So I think we as a group, we're very well positioned for that pricing recovery. So next question, has there been any presentations in 2024 to UK, US fund managers for institutional investment Mkango shares? If not, what are the plans to do? I mean, we are meeting potential investors, fund managers on an ongoing basis in parallel, with engaging with some strategic investors. Obviously, we've been through the summer period. We have completed a financing, and we're now ramping up that engagement for the rest of this year, particularly with the upcoming news flow. So yes, we are very much focused on that. And I think we're starting to see a lot more activity in the US. particularly, with the context of the recycling plans in the US as well. And the fact that Songwei, there's so few projects at an advanced stage, it's very much on the radar. Okay, so the next one, do you expect Hypermag to be awarded CRMA money, mostly as debt grants in the first round of announcement in December? Do you expect offtakes to announce at the same time and offtakes to fund any equity required? Yes, we have applied for, Hypermag to be a strategic project, very much so. And I think all I can say at this stage, we are getting very strong interest in potential offtake and sort of coupled with investment. Clearly, what we're looking for is a strategic investor to really accelerate the scale up of these businesses to underpin, the sort of rollout of these businesses. Okay, next question. Do you expect the MDA for Songwei can be broadly templated into the other MK other mining opportunities in Malawi? Do you see yourselves as operators in Malawi on any of them? So, Alex, I'm going to pass over to you for that one.
Thanks, Will. So, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Look, we're really happy to have got the mining development agreement signed off back at the end of July. As you know, a huge amount of work went into that, with a lot of support from US government, UK government, European Union, a lot of stakeholder support, so that we've come up with a win-win mining development agreement, which is good for all stakeholders. So yeah, I do believe that it can be broadly templated for other projects. As you may or may not be aware, both the Mkango and Lotus mining development agreement are very similar. Yeah, absolutely, they can be templated, and I suspect Malawi government will use our mining development agreement and Lotus's as a way forward for other projects in the country.
Great, thanks, Alex. Okay, so next one. Does it matter Hypermag can't yet manufacture across the full spectrum of remnants coercivity? So we presented the grades of magnets that we can manufacture, and it is a very broad and expanding range. However, what should be noted is that that is for 100% recycled product and short-lived recycled product. Now we can adjust the grade of these magnets by blending in sort of virgin product. So that could either be derived from a long loop process, so a chemical process, or it could be derived from primary production. So we could adjust the grade, but for the purpose of the presentation for HyProMag, because the focus is 100% recycled, it's a short loop product, that's what we presented. So we're not limited, and we do have that flexibility. And just bear in mind, with the Critical Raw Materials Act, consistent with that, the minimum target is 25% recycled. So you could have a scenario, where a magnet could contain 25% recycled, 50%, or 100%. So it's there is that sort of flexibility, and so we are aligned with certainly what's happening with Europe, and I'm sure will be happening elsewhere. So next question: how many other MSP countries do you see HyProMag involved in by 2028? Well, currently we are in the US, UK, Germany, Japan. I can see at least 3 others by 2028. I mean, we are constantly looking at opportunities, and yeah, so I think we're very excited about the opportunity here. Okay, so how many tons do you see global recycling getting up to for HyProMag by 28 and likely growth rate in 2030s? I think one of the benefits of the HyProMag sort of process is it's a modular process, so we can scale up with demand and scrap supply. So I could say easily a minimum of 1,500 tons NdFeB products by 2028, and there's scale up, further scale up beyond that. So the market's there, and we're very well positioned for that opportunity. Okay, so what percentage of Hypermag revenues do you see coming from wind turbine decommissioning? At the moment, it's fairly small. I think but the biggest opportunity for us at the moment is in electronics. So whether it's hard disk drives, speaker assemblies, also other forms of electric motors, whole range of supply. I think wind turbines, it'll be a little bit longer before that material, significant quantities of that material comes available. We process wind turbine magnets, and we are working in projects very much focused on positioning ourselves for when that material comes available. We have a grant-funded project with European Metal Recycling, which is making great progress. But initially, getting things started, we're looking at electronic waste. But obviously, in the future, we've got this big growth in electric vehicles, and then wind turbine assemblies coming available. So yeah, great outlook for those potential scrap sources. Okay, next, what was the reason for the target production date for finished magnets and Tyseley being pushed back to second half of 2025 from second half of 2024? So in terms of the Tyseley commissioning, and we did put out an update earlier in the year. So the way the Tyseley development is organised, the university is currently is responsible for the commissioning. So that includes ordering the equipment, getting the infrastructure contractors in place. HyProMag is obviously we're a commercial partner. We licensed the underlying IP, so clearly we are very keen to see that project developed as soon as possible. So the key driver of timing at the moment is the infrastructure. The equipment has all been ordered. It's we just had the powder processing plant has just been sort of built on site today. So I've just seen some photos of that. So that's all happening, and the Hypermag team is on the ground, and all going well. But the key driver of timing is going to be getting the infrastructure completed for the commissioning of all this equipment. So it's the presses, the transverse press, and the axial alignment press that was commissioned some time ago. In fact, we've run produced product from those. Then we have the powder processing plant. Then you've got the sintering furnaces. Then you've got the HPMS vessel. So these pieces of equipment have been ordered. They'll be arriving, in the coming weeks and months. But it's the infrastructure which is driving the commissioning. We are, and I think as per the last press release, this is the key driver. We're expecting the final approvals for that shortly from and with the university, and we're targeting that Q1 commissioning next year, subject to that infrastructure development starting ASAP. So clearly we want to start those sales as soon as possible. Initial sales would be sort of batches of NdFeB powder, 100% recycled powder. So we have put out inquiries into the market for that product, and then we'll look to get into finished magnet manufacturing sort of later in the year as further equipment gets commissioned. So next, have you managed to solve the issues surrounding finished magnet coatings? So I think for this, this is currently being outsourced. We don't anticipate any issues for scaling up. I think a general comment is there is very limited magnet manufacturing outside Asia. The biggest producers are in China and Japan. There is a producer in Germany and some other sort of smaller producers. But really, that expertise certainly is being developed, and I think Birmingham University is a centre of excellence for developing that expertise, and so it's a great place to be developing a rare earth hub, and I think that will attract other businesses in the area, and we are reaching out to cooperate with other businesses in the area to really optimize and look at some of these other aspects of rare earth magnet manufacture. But at the moment, we don't see any issues, in terms of coatings with respect to sort of scaling up production. So has the HPMS reactor arrived on site in Theisley? So that is currently being built in Germany. So no, we're expecting that later in the year. And really, the reason for that, we want to dovetail that with the infrastructure development. So clearly, if there's infrastructure being developed at the same time as the HPMS reactor being delivered, that's not necessarily an optimal situation. So we need to sort of coordinate that commissioning with the infrastructure development, as I mentioned earlier. So next question, how confident are you in the 2025 target for magnet production from Hypermag GmbH? Subject to financing, very confident. So we're very excited about that project. We've got grant funding support, great team. We've got a site and equipment's on order, and we're starting to look at the putting the infrastructure in. So yes, very excited about that development right in the heart of the EU and getting a lot of customer interest. Can you elaborate further on the PCB automated removal and benefit for Hypermag? So the circuit board is the highest value part of a hard disk drive. So really, by being able to automate the removal of that printed circuit board, coupling that with the removal of the magnet, it will create another high value product stream, and it would be hugely positive for HyProMag. So I think really exciting opportunity, and we're working very closely with Inserma on that, and so really interesting opportunity. Do you plan to build a Hypermac Plot on the Mkango Polska site? So we are looking at Poland as a potential candidate for another HPMS spoke. Obviously, we're on the ground there, and we are engaging with potential strategic investors, partners. However, we're still evaluating that opportunity, and so we can't really comment on where that spoke would go. So there's more work to be done on that. So next question, when can we expect revenues to come from the Long Loop project? So we're currently completing the optimization and scoping studies for that. And that will inform the strategy, and it'll also inform the timing of what we do. And this could be a standalone development. In terms of geographies, we're also looking at the US. We're looking at whether this would be standalone, joint venture, or there may be other commercial arrangements for different jurisdictions, for example, Europe, the US, or elsewhere. I would say we have had interest in collaborating on that project, strategic interest. So, but we need to do the work, we need to do the optimization, we need to complete the scoping studies. And, we're following a similar sort of concept as we did for Palave and the separation plant, in that complete the scoping studies, look at the competitive advantages, in this case, a carbon footprint as well, and then to see what the best course of action is to develop that sort of technology. Do you expect any offtake MOUs with OEMs to be signed pre-final magnet production? Yes, I think definitely there's a large number of groups we're currently engaging with. Okay, so next question. Why haven't Hypermag GmbH converted the loan from Magneto? So basically, the way this is structured, the loan is already partially drawn down. Once it's fully drawn down, it'll be converted to increase from 80 to 90%. So that's sort of in progress at the moment. It's a partial drawdown. Okay, so next question. Have Hypermag, Songwe Hill and Mkango Polska applied for CRMA, that's the Critical Raw Materials Act, strategic project funding? Yes, we have all those entities. We've applied for strategic project status. So those applications have gone in for that program. Okay, so next question. In the last presentation, you stated you would increase and improve shareholder engagement, but this is the first Q&A since. What can we expect this year? Clearly, over the coming months, obviously as we come out of the summer, we're looking to ramp up shareholder engagement. I think our next major sort of milestone, as I think I mentioned earlier, is US feasibility study. So we'll certainly arrange another investor session, after when that comes out. Okay, so next question. Mkango has a great story, but we lack clarity on the potential profitability of Songwe and the recycling. So with Songwe, we will update the economics when we do the front-end engineering and design, and importantly, the project optimization. So when we put the feasibility study for Songwe out, that was in July 2022. Clearly, that was at a time when supply chains were constrained, reagent costs were high. Key drivers for our project are reagent consumption, reagent costs, and there's obviously other aspects of it, but we are very much focused on reducing those costs, and there's a lot of scope to do that, given versus the feasibility study, given the sort of timing when we announced that. So what we're expecting is perhaps a reduction in costs, and obviously that update will reflect the prevailing sort of rare earth prices and sort of outlook at the time. I think in terms of the recycling, the next major milestone, as I mentioned, is the US sort of feasibility study. So that'll give a very, very good indication of the economics of the business. The US scope of the project is larger than what we're currently doing in the UK and Germany, but I think it'll give a very good indication of what the sort of potential is in the UK and Germany, and obviously we're looking at larger sort of scale up scenarios beyond that. And also just sort of bearing in mind, we did release some scoping numbers in October 2023 in relation to the recycling. So that gives some indication, but obviously that'll all be updated as part of the US feasibility study. I think moving on to the next question, actually, can they tell us the sensitivity of the project to underlying rare earth prices, so we can understand what tracks the basket price? This seems to be just one layer of detail that helps investors. So I think with this, obviously Songwe being a mining project, it is sensitive to rare earth prices, as you'd expect. The recycling business is less sensitive because one of the cost drivers is the scrap feed cost, which is driven, it's the raw material cost, and that cost is also driven by rare earth prices. So you have a situation where the costs, to a certain extent, are geared to rare earth prices, as is the revenue, obviously. So there's some sort of dampening of that impact. So moving on to the next question. This is on the next set of questions on the Songwe MDA. So I'm going to pass over to Alex for these. But first question, is there sufficient provision in the MDA for maintaining foreign currency accounts abroad to satisfy project lenders and other interested parties? So Alex, I'll pass over to you.
Thanks, Will, and hi everyone again. Look, we're very happy that we've got the MDA signed, and very grateful for the support that the government of Malawi, but also US government, UK, EU have given towards the project, and also, of course, the Presidential Delivery Unit for helping us get the MDA agreed and signed off just over a month ago. So that's really excellent news for the project and for the company. So to answer your question, Will, yes, there is. The company may open and maintain one or more foreign currency accounts outside of Malawi to meet the company's foreign currency obligations for the project lenders for the entire period of the loan. And the company can also maintain one or more foreign currency accounts with an international bank within Malawi, which has been established specifically for the Songwe project. So we're very comfortable that there's sufficient provision in the MDA for maintaining foreign currency accounts abroad.
Okay, and what are the timeframes and parameters for project delivery?
Sure. Well, subject to finance, we're looking to commence the FEED, the front-end engineering and design, and importantly, the optimization. If you bear in mind the definitive feasibility study was published in July 2022, a lot of those numbers came from December 2021. And, whether it's shipping costs, reagent costs, steel costs, prices have changed considerably, but also rare earth prices have changed as well. So we're very much looking forward to completing the FEED and the optimization. We expect that to take the next 12 months, subject to the finance. We've recently announced funding of 200,000 euros that we've received from the EIT. That's EU funding, and that's the optimization work to reduce operating costs of producing the high-value rare earth carbonate in Malawi, which will be shipped to the plant in Poland. Following the finalization of the FEED and optimization, the NPV, CapEx, operating costs will, of course, be updated. And, perhaps I should just mention that the debt financing and strategic investment discussions will be undertaken at the same time as the FEED. And bear in mind, back in July 2022, we did have the African Development Banks and the EBRD visit Malawi, visit the project with their technical consultants. There were no serious red flags for the project. And, those banks included the African Finance Corporation, African Development Bank, Afri-Exim Bank, and Standard Bank, as well as EBRD. So we're excited to get things moving forward, particularly on the optimization.
Okay, great. So will foreign source services have tax breaks like for goods?
Sure. So the company will provide to the government of Malawi a list of goods and services, and that list will also include materials, equipment, consumables that will be required for the purpose of the business, for the mining project and the mineral processing, etc. The company will be exempt from export duty, import excise, import VAT, and that's on all imports and exports. There's a 10-year stability period from the effective date of the mining development agreement, and there's also 10 years loss carry forward from the start of mine construction. As you're aware, the gross royalty that we agreed was 5%, and there's a 30% CIT.
And will extra tax be payable if rare earth prices exceed certain thresholds?
So what we've agreed with Malawi government, and this is something that Lotus Resources have also been discussing with Malawi government, that instead of the 15% resource rent tax, which has now been stopped, if rare earth prices, or in the case of Lotus, uranium prices exceed normal, supernormal thresholds, a tax will be payable. The government of Malawi is currently reviewing a formula that's been provided to them so that it can be implemented from the 2025-2026 financial year.
Great, thanks, Alex. So next question, please can we have an update on the ongoing strategic review? So, this is work in progress. We're obviously, looking in terms of Songwe and Palave, we're looking at all the options, and we see there's a lot of value we can unlock through this process. We do not believe the value of all the company's assets are reflected in the share price. So we're looking, and this process is also driven by investor feedback. It's driven by ongoing strategic discussions and finance, and also discussions with governments, whether it's in Europe or North America and elsewhere. I think the backdrop of receiving signing the MDA, and also the start of rare earth prices starting to go up, that obviously facilitates the process. So it's a key focus for us, and we're looking to move that that forward in the coming weeks. Okay, so next question. I've read that Lancaster Exploration is to be traded on the Malawian stock market. Does that mean it will be spun out of Mkango? Alex, over to you.
So yes, we have agreed in the MDA that the local Malawi company will be listed on the Malawian Stock Exchange. This will have great benefits for the project. It enables Malawian institutions to invest in the project. There's various pension funds within Malawi. It also opens up investment from the rest of sub-Saharan African nations as well as individuals within Malawi itself. So I think this is a very positive move. It's a process which not just ourselves have agreed to. Lotus will also be listing on the Malawi Stock Exchange, as well as I suspect the other future natural resources companies. So again, very positive for the project and for the company.
Great. Well, I think that's the last question. So thank you very much, everyone. It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to keeping you updated and to the next session. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.